Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings, and Amazon making a TV show. Now, I want to just start out by saying it was not fair that every other bloody setting would be overrun and polluted by you know who. Lord of the Rings deserves their dose of diversity, Kyle, so that we may attach a stick to J.R. Tolkien's long desiccated anus and use him to power our failing economy.
I can hear Bubbles screaming somewhere in the world. Oh God, I think it's unfortunate. I mean, it's been happening for a while. I'm not sure if anybody's been following the Lord of the Rings video games, but Shadow of War, like it had etchings of it, and like you could kind of smell that shit seeping in. Like it's been coming for a long time. And they've been trying to undermine this IP because they've managed to undermine Star Wars. They've managed to undermine, Disney, fucking DC, Marvel. They've managed to destroy all these things. And this is just merely another, what's it? I don't even know. Another tower to climb, another Tower of Babel to smash. Or it's just going to keep happening.
That's true. So the first article here, this one is it's not old, but it's kind of old, and the headline is Amazon's Lord of the Rings TV series adds 20 new cast members, and it says that it needs to aim for a global audience. So what we know is it's supposed to be set during the Second Age of Numenor, of the war against Sauron, the first one, and of course the alliance of men and elves, which eventually saw Sauron lose his ring and blah, blah, blah. And we now have cast members, and immediately you can see the diversity as. And here's the thing, too. I have got nothing against these people. I don't even recognize half of them. But immediately you start seeing that for a TV show that supposedly is going to be set at least partially in Numenor, an island 100% by basically Tolkien's version of the Ubermensch, half elf, half human, or not half, but part elf humans, which are universally described as blonde and blue eyed or dark haired and grey eyed. We now have a remarkably diverse cast.
Yes.
Weird.
And we did a lot of looking up. We even consulted one of the little lore nuts about this. And we have a map actually, if we want to talk about that.
I'll send you the map here.
I've already got it up. I'm ahead of you, Arch. Get good.
So we have here like a very kind of rough scale-ish map of Middle Earth, because Tolkien's dead, and we can't ask him like how far away. It's like, But we see people who are like full on, proper black, and we couldn't even figure out if there were any people like that in Lord of the Rings setting. Like the closest we can think of is like the Haradrim, which are more like brown Asian, and the Rune people, again like more like Persian Asian style.
Yeah.
And even then, we're now talking about stuff that is mentioned like it was one line of text in the books. Most of this. And look at so there's a basic little map size there. If this is going to take place in Numenor, which is a couple hundred, if not more, miles off the coast of the continent again, for somebody to get from Harad to Numenor would have to go on a journey, something along the lines of the entire breadth of Europe.
And Harad, I'd also like to point out that the Haradrim aren't even black. Like, we have actors being cast who are African American, or not, well, African in general, ethnic type. And so that means that if any place, when we consulted somebody who knows the lore pretty well, they said maybe south of Haradrim. Like that means they have traveled. This is near Harad. This isn't even full Harad. They've traveled from behind Harad all the way up here, and that's just the kind of difference that even the Roman Empire, an ancient empire, that people would never travel. It's ridiculous. Like, it's already a big deal in Lord of the Rings that Frodo and the Fellowship of the Ring went from the Shire all the way to Mount Doom. Like, that's a big deal.
Oh yeah, like okay, so from Shire to Mount Doom, just eyeballing the distance here using the measurement is about maybe 800 miles, right?
That's in a
long.
straight line too, which they didn't take.
Yeah, and in a straight line too, so it's probably longer. And you've got to cross a couple of mountain ranges
Yep.
to boot. And yet now here we have a TV show which is confirmed to take place in Numenor with people that look like at best they could be from like Rune near Harad. So these people would have to have carried out a journey as impressive as the hobbits at that point
I
to
mean,
get there.
this journey is weirdly never talked about in Lord of the Rings. Did you think they would mention something like, "Ah, we are on a great trek like the one Durkee band from Durpistan that took place in the Second Age"? Or no, they didn't mention nothing about that.
And then that's the thing too. Like it's the second age. Like this is the age after the banishing of what was it, Morgoth? That was the big super bad. Like Sauron's just a little bitch boy bad. Like he's the one of the like half-assed lieutenants of proper bad boy. You know.
Yeah, they defeated Morgoth, and now it's just Sauron. This one's gonna be the Second Age, so. But
Yes.
it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know. And
So we're not even in an age now where we even know if there was like Harad. And
well,
Brunn.
they're gonna be making shit up at this point, by the way, because at this point there's not enough lore or information to actually build anything with, because like Tolkien never really went into hyper specifics with the way the borders were at this point, and so we're gonna be kind of in a situation, even with the Silmarillion, where they're just gonna have to make shit up to fill in the gaps.
Actually, sorry to interrupt you, but
Go for it.
the chat actually pointed out that Numenor sank before Harad even existed. So yeah.
Yeah. Also, I think I was looking at some fan maps, but I'm not 100% sure. I think it's southwest of like it'll be like
Numenor?
over here. No, hold on. Yeah, hold on.
Numenor is from like the tip of Andrast, and then like round about 45 degrees down from there, and it's far too. It's like 400 miles probably.
Yeah, I found a fan map for it. I'll post it.
It is far because, as the chat has also pointed out, yes, indeed, that was Tolkien's idea of Atlantis, essentially.
Yep, it's basically just Lord of the Rings Atlantis.
Yes.
Especially the sinking legend, like it's very much the same. Here it is, chat. That's over here. I was actually a little bit off by like 100 miles. More than 100.
And there's also the fact that Games Workshop got a hold of the IP to make a tabletop war game of this, and they pulled some stuff out of their little bum bums, like for example the Khandish, which are basically Mongolian, Chinese, Japanese people. And even they, I don't think, have come up with any actual proper dark-skinned characters, and I can't remember any either. And the thing is, right. Let me also point out here, this entire conversation is technically moot. Like, it doesn't technically matter if there is a black Gondorian. Like, all right, derpy, but fine. The problem is we know the reason why these people are the way they are. It's not because they saw a person like, oh yeah, you fit this character perfectly. It's because, right, we've got a checklist, we got a quota.
Yep. And the worst part is that's 100% true. There's no even refuting that. The thing is, if they find an actor who's like really good, and I don't care what the race is, and they like, this actor plays, this character, and we could never find anybody in the world to do that. It's like, yeah, okay. Skill does matter. Skill does matter. And if their acting is that superb, that you can overlook the lore and everything else because you can just enjoy and indulge yourself with such excellent acting. And that's fine. I think there's nothing wrong with that. But the issue is, we all know better. This isn't just because we want to cast these actors because of their skill. There's a deeper meaning behind this, and a subversive aspect. A subversive aspect we have seen with DC, with Marvel, with Star Wars, with Disney, with every other major company. And I've experienced this too, where we had some person who tried to join our team or influence our team is like, do you have any women writers? Do you have anybody who's doing this? And how do you plan to correct that? And I'm like, piss off. Like, it's none of your business. This is my project, my game, none of your business. Like, you don't get to tell me what to do or I can't write female characters because I'm not a woman. Like, bitch, go fuck yourself. That's not how the world works. These subversive
Chat
people are
also brings
everywhere.
up
Go ahead.
another good point, namely that the areas to the coast of Harad, Umbar, is populated by the Black Numenorians. And not black as in skin color, as in they're evil. Like, those were Numenorian colonies that now turn into raiders.
Mm, yeah.
You didn't see them much in the movie, but you remember the Ghost Armada, right? Disembarking from the ships.
Yep.
Those ships were supposed to be bringing the Black Numenorians.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be diverse. It's probably going to be woke. And is that going to lead to a good product? I doubt it. I very much so do.
We have yet to see a good product. See, I wouldn't even have a problem if these wokest people would just be like, I'm going to make a product for me, and we're going to make it woke, and it's going to be our own unique woke IP. Awesome. Good for you. I hope it's successful. But they love to just steal other people's work and subvert it for themselves because they can't stand the fact that somebody that isn't them did something better than them. And so they have to steal someone else's work. And that's the part I find disgusting. That's the part I dislike. If they would just make their own products and do their own thing and mind their own business, more power to them. I wish nothing but the best. But the fact that it's not that they want to subvert and destroy everything, is the thing that annoys and pisses me off.
It is. And it's also just the fact that, once I joked about it to begin with, the Lord of the Rings setting has been unbelievably lucky. And hell, lucky is not actually the correct word, because it does not take into account the tremendous amount of work put in by the Tolkien estate to gatekeep its property. And it has been treated with relative respect. Even like the trilogy series was fairly good, fairly accurate, fairly faithful to the setting. They mentioned there was a couple black Gondorians in the background of some scenes, but okay, I don't care. You want to have a couple extras do that? At this point, I'm just like, it's the current year,
Yes. Honestly, I wouldn't even care that much if the entire cast was black, as long as they did it and it was just they did Lord of the Rings. But the problem is the reason for why they're doing what they're doing. They're not just casting them because they're black or because they're good. They're casting them because they themselves are racist. They're casting them because of their skin color and because they want to rub it in people's faces. They want to use them. And it's this racist mentality that has been allowed to persist and continue to persist and will continue to persist as long as people continue to buy these kinds of products.
And also, let me just, as a little bit of a lull ending to this, let's have a look at this one, Kyle, just to give you an idea of how this is going to be treated.
Oh boy. I'm opening it up. Brace yourself, Chant. There might be a big dick in the fucking cover. No, we're lucky.
Lord of the Rings, lack of diversity, and 9 other problems with the series. Because make no mistake, like this is not a baseless fear that we have here. It's not like, oh, they may be crazy because of this. No. They're telling us flat out what is supposedly wrong with the setting. And of course, number 9 starts with Sam is essentially Frodo's servant, which it's such a classical nihilist point of view of this stuff. The classic fake left, which can't see 2 friends, and one friend in particular, who knows his friend is bearing a heavy burden, an incredibly heavy burden, and wants to do everything in his power to help him. And they look at that genuine friendship, which they don't recognize in the slightest, and go, he's basically a slave.
No, the thing is, like with Samwise Gamgee, honestly, in my opinion, from reading Lord of the Rings, the main character is Sam, but from the whole thing, like, Sam and Frodo's relationship is their friendship, and Sam may be working and employed for Frodo's family, but he genuinely cares about Frodo. They are really good friends, and Sam is willing to go through hell and back to save his friend. And it's so...
Put it like this.
Go ahead.
the article is like, but it's not unrealistic to see the problematic class structure in their relationship.
It's
Like,
a
let
feudal
me ask you this.
society. What the fuck?
Do you bloody think Sam saw a paycheck during their 9 months journey, or however long to Mordor?
I don't think Frodo saw a paycheck either. Like, honestly, they just had to be gifted things by the various other people and people they encountered because they understood the burden of what they were carrying, and they wanted to see the great evil that was Sauron finally put to rest.
Yes. But again, the current day fake leftists, the wokies, they don't see that. And so next is a lot of the characters are sexist. Like, okay, in a medieval society, written in the 50s.
God forbid
And that's
there's
a problem.
gender roles. God forbid.
Arwen gives up her immortality for a man. Like, normal people look at that and think like, God, that's incredible, isn't it? That's romantic. An immortal being loves a human so much, she's willing to sacrifice that for him. Leftists see, you're surrendering to a man, woman. How dare you?
That's not surrendering, that's love.
Yes.
Oh, it's painful. That's sad, actually, because that means they've never experienced love. That does explain a little bit about their thought process, though, because imagine being unloved. That's actually tragic in a way. Like, you've been so unloved that when you see somebody love somebody, you have to insert that it's some sort of, like, authoritarian, patriarchal thing. How pathetic that must be.
Using fancy races, a metaphor for real race relations, and yet again, like this entire article here is such a perfect example of how they view the world. Nobody else looks at the elves hating the dwarves, one of the oldest tropes in goddamn fiction, and thinks, yes, modern day America.
People like to just insert their own real world politics into a fictitious world's politics. Like, it's just sad.
Number 5 is literally just the existence of orcs.
The existence of orcs.
Yes.
Oh
That's a problem. Just the existence of orcs is a problem because orcs are evil. And yet again, the wokies look at that and just... See, this is the thing. Never in my life, and I've made this point so many times, have I looked at an orc and thought to myself, black people. And yet every single wokies article on this is like, yes, they do remind me of them, don't it?
Also, it depends on the orc and what universe. Like, for example, Warcraft orcs aren't evil. They were slaves of another race, and they eventually broke free. They're actually quite interesting and complex. Lord of the Rings orcs are evil because they are made by a fucking literal evil being that is hell-bent on reshaping the world in their fucking image.
That's the thing too. Like, you gotta realize, Lord of the Rings is a good versus evil universe at its very foundation. In fact, hell, the current age is the more grey age, because Sauron is, again, just a bitch boy, compared to literal Satan, which was Morgoth.
Yeah.
Point 4, there isn't any LGBT plus representation. Well, I think Legolas and Gimli there could have a good, solid little butt buddy relationship. Frankly.
No, I hate how the constant need for subversive elements to always be like, look at this very heartfelt bromance. Oh, they're gay for each other.
Can't have it.
You can't have men like each other and friendly, brotherly, like love. That is apparently homosexual.
That is
okay.
There are no female main characters, says the show, ignoring again the fact that Galadriel is probably the single most powerful good guy character in the entire series. But hey, don't care about that. And even then, it is a journey over how many thousands of miles fighting a war. It's like, let's put women on the front line. And even then, they did that too. Eowyn, right? Who, like, no man can kill me. I'm no man. Stop. Like, well, shit. I didn't see that fine line writing in the contract as the Witch King.
Let's get to number 2. This one's spicy.
The Haradrim people is full of harmful stereotypes. Again, I repeat my point. Like, only an actual genuine racist will have this opinion and look at the Haradrim and go like, yes, Africans.
Generally, racists like to hide themselves as the anti-racist these days. They're like, is this thing racist? It's like, dude, why are you thinking like that? Like, why is it the first thing that comes to your mind? When I think the Haradrim, I'm like, oh, cool, it's the people with the big, giant, goddamn olifants that stomp on the horses. I don't think, they're Muslims, or, they're brown people. Like, who gives a shit what color they are? They got big, stompy elephants. That's what matters. At least for the Rohirrim.
And yet, this is of course where we come to that ever-important gatekeeping point of change. Quote, this is an area where the movies could have tried to update the source material.
Update the source material? You mean change and destroy? See, this is the subversive stuff. I hate this shit. This is the shit I fear about, like, for any IP or anybody's project, be it Arch's, be it mine, be it Asmogon's, be it whoever's. Like, some point down the line, some fucking asshole's gonna come along and be like, I'm gonna change this because I think it hurts my feelings and I'm scared. It's like, no one cares about your pathetic feelings. Fuck off. Go make your own.
Number one, there aren't really any characters of color. Though they do mention that some of the orcs are played by characters of color, apparently.
Doesn't matter. I mean, with the orcs in the Lord of the Rings universe need to be made a little gray. So as long as they wear the gray body paint or the dark, like, gray, it works.
And there you have it. Like, this is the thing. The Lord of the Rings Amazon show is under a heavy siege already, and it's probably gonna be bloody horrible. But hey, maybe we can live in hope. Everyone thought The Witcher was gonna be awful, and yet mostly due to the performance of Henry Cavill, it wasn't. Maybe this show will have a hero like him. I doubt it.
I mean, I doubt it, but it's okay to have an open mind when they do launch and be like, okay, let's take a look. And we look at it and we're like, oh, it's a disaster. Well, then it's a disaster, and we were right. I'd love to be wrong. In fact, I always kind of hope I'm wrong about something, because, like, it's better to be wrong, because we're, like, always the pessimists about it. And if we're wrong, we win, because we got a good product. That's awesome. I'd rather be wrong than right.